And hello, y'all, and welcome to Wow Mom. This is Ellen Mongan, your host, and today we have an adventure ahead for you. But before we start to talk about what we're going to speak on today, I'm going to put on my co-host, Jane Ann Bonbrake from Dime a Dozen Mom. Hey, Jane Ann.
Hey, how are you, Ellen? So good to be here this afternoon.
Doing well, thank you so much for always my co-host. What's new in your world?
With a lot of children, I'm always busy. Just cooking, trying to ask. We're still homeschooling a little bit, having a little math to catch up on. So,
Well,
anyway, and trying to enjoy the summer.
we still have our Japanese guests, Jane, but they took a mental health break, probably from me talking. The one little Japanese daughter-in-law, she goes, Americans, they talk so much. I wanted to say, no, just my mom, but he didn't say that. He was courteous. So we went just walk in the mall for exercise, and let her see the sights. And they're off now while we're doing the show. But so we have some special guests today, Janie Ann. Do you want to read the bio for our two special guests?
Yes, I want to introduce Alan and Darryl. And I'm going to start with Alan's bio first. Okay, and these two guys have also written a book together and called Failing Forward. I love the name of that. I really, really do, especially after having so many teenagers. And still, I have 4 in the house today. So, anyway. And one just turned 16, so I'm like, pray for me.
That's a girl.
Taught 7 how to drive. I got 4 more to go. Okay. Alan is the founder of Adventure Catholic Youth Leadership Formation Training and the author of the Manly Art of Raising a Daughter, as well as the co-author of Failing Forward. He holds a certificate in youth ministry and from the University of Dayton. Alan has appeared on the EWTN's At Home with Jim and Joy TV show, as well as the multiple radio shows throughout the country, speaking about the importance of family and the man's role as a shepherd. Alan is a veteran of the United States Army and achieved the rank of Eagle Scouts while in Boy Scouts. He has been married to the same beautiful woman since 1993 and has 3 wonderful daughters. Alan offers speaking engagement as a keynote speaker, and his passions are his family and leading others to know Jesus on a personal level. Okay, and this is Darryl. Darryl is an author, speaker, trainer, co-founder of the Adventure Catholic, and a professional minister with over 18 years in active ministry. Along the way, he has done some time in the seminary and has also was released on vocational recognizance. He graduated with a minor in seminary with a degree in philosophy and eventually earned a master's degree in theology from St. Leo University. As a full-time minister, Darryl's area has been in youth ministry with an emphasis on making the faith relevant to not only teens, but to parents as well. Welcome. I can't wait to learn from you guys.
Yes,
oh my gosh, our bios are so long. I got to cut down on those.
Ridiculous.
Chapter 2 of Alan's bio. Let me go to chapter 2, paragraph 8.
I would Jane read it because I would stumble over the words. I noticed the last names. But just say the last names. Y'all say the last names.
I did not do the last name. I'm Southern, and we do not have names like that. We're like Smith, Williams. Bonbrake is big enough.
So, Alan, do you want to introduce yourself and then Darryl and say whatever, add to your bio?
No, I'm not adding anything to that bio.
Take away.
We're just so happy to be on your show, Ellen. You've been such an instrumental, of support for us. I know you guys have talked about our books, on your show a couple times. It really means a lot to us to have your support because if more parents can understand the importance of what we're trying to do, then we can see our kids become better leaders. And we're just so excited that we have, others that understand our mission.
And Darryl, do you have anything to add to your bio?
I just would put, and he has a very cool beard, and he's a lot handsomer than Alan. I would just put that in, and I think we just summarize everything. I think we're good.
They're like brothers. I was going to say, y'all we have you on the show, Wow Mom. I mean, that's the name of our show, and y'all aren't moms, obviously. But you're like mommy motivators. You're like the guys that go, every parent doesn't have the same skills, My mom was shy, so she really couldn't do things that like maybe I would do as a mom. And so some moms can't raise leaders because they're not leaders or they don't know the Lord well enough to lead by the example of the Word of God and the Catholic faith. So we're so proud to have you on a mom show. We've had met on before, Jen, but I don't know if you were on with John Murphy. So, y'all, where do you want to begin? Do you want to tell about what Adventure Catholic is? And when y'all jump in, whoever it is, I'll put it on the screen. Surprise us.
Alan, go ahead. You wrote the book about the manly art of raising daughters. So
That's true. That's true.
That's right, I did, Darryl. So you just sit there for a little bit. So, Darryl,
hey, Alan, I'll cut in when you start straying and say some wrong things.
Okay, that's perfect.
Start.
Just like always. Okay. Darryl and I have worked together in youth ministry for a while now, and Adventure Catholic is where Failing Forward, our new book, was born out of. Really, Adventure Catholic was started because we noticed there are two times. There are two monumental times where kids will leave the faith. One is confirmation after they get confirmed, because they feel it's a finish line and they've accomplished and completed everything that their parents had lined up for them, and then now they don't have to be bothered with it because they're mature in their faith. The second point is when they go off to college. And so Darryl and I were talking, how can we get kids to stay connected to their faith? And leadership kept coming up. And so we kind of mixed together Darryl's experience with the seminary and my experience with owning a business. And, we mixed all that together and came up with a method of training teens for leadership. And it kind of, Darryl's hand motions, it really blew up into a bunch of leadership discussions and training. So we have this method that we've come up with called OPEC. And that's outlined in the book Failing Forward.
Darryl, you're on.
Not bad, Alan. That is good. Good intro. Okay. What he really meant to say was...
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know.
We're like brothers.
We do go back. And what was your question again, Alan? I'm sorry.
Do you want anything to what Alan said to adjust it?
I was lost in his wisdom. But now, we start... Yeah, we did start this because, there was a need. And we saw that there would be a particular way of reaching kids, teens. And I've been in ministry for, like I said, 18 years. In all youth ministry, for some reason, I can't get out. I know, right? Like, leave me alone. I mean, but Jane, you're really stuck. At the end of the day, I get to give them back to their parents. And you're like, so I'm like, oh, Jane. But, we get to give them back. But, while they're in our charge for the 4 years, we get to do something. So we saw a need. And Alan was his little Boy Scout background, He's like, yo, let's take the kids out in the woods and go camping. And I'm like, okay, Alan, we got to bring God into this. And he's like, all right, do your ministry thing. And we just kind of put something together. And it really blossomed from there because we started seeing that there were some basic life skills that the kids were not getting. A lot of that was confrontation with each other and how to do that in a Christ-like manner. And, in Ephesians 4:15, Paul writes, speak the truth with love. And so we really use that as one of our foundational Bible verses. We have 3 of them. But speak the truth with love in Ephesians 4:15 allows kids to say what they need to say, what they're feeling, maybe what they're thinking, but it also challenges them to make sure they deliver that message in a way that'll be received by someone else. So it's not just blurt out whatever you want to say, and this is me, I'm going to say what I want, but I need to say what the truth is, but I'm also going to try to protect your feelings and protect your dignity more so. And if you are offended by my truth, which maybe it's, hey brother, I don't like you drinking because you're underage and your parents say don't do it. If you're offended by that, then I got to be strong enough to just say, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm calling it like I see it. That's not who God calls you to be. This is not your best self. So I'm just gonna say it out. And over the years, we've kind of honed it down. And created a methodology, which in Failing Forward really is our methodology, because we were getting a lot of parents going, what did you do to my kids? After 4 days in the woods with them, what did you do? And in a positive way, not like in a sexy way,
not in a creepy duct tape in the woods way, yeah.
Right. So just to clarify, I'm speaking the truth, So and they were really excited. Like there was like, how can we continue this magic at home, and we just started thinking about it, and we're like, what are we doing? What exactly? So we kind of started writing. It took a while. It took a couple of years, We started writing it down, and like, this is kind of what we're doing. So failing forward. One interview called it falling forward the whole time. I'm like, but it's really, the Kopek method is kind of the secret recipe of Adventure Catholic, and now we're making it public for parents to be able to follow this recipe to get certain results with their kids. And it's been amazing, really amazing.
Well, I think, Jan, you're going to pop in a minute. You could ask any question you want, but I think that the failing forward is way better than failing backwards. Because you fail backwards, then you have a real problem, because you maybe have 6 kids, or want to change your job, and you don't really have the income to supply for your family. It's better to fail forward. But in our home, we have a saying. It's like this: do whatever you want, Pat, or do whatever you want, kids.
Yeah.
No one's ever happy doing whatever they want. It's like a joke in our family. Like, you do whatever you want, you don't bear good fruit. You do what God wants, you bear great fruit. And parents really don't know that by setting boundaries and rules, you raise leaders, and they're doing God's will, and you're happier because you're not enabling them to do their way instead of God's way. Jan?
Yeah, so I think that's, I guess we have to read the book to know the acronym for COPEC. I'm kind of guessing what that method is. But I want to say on what you were saying is that it's really great, because what you're teaching them about talking and being able to articulate, that teaches them, I think, 2 things: evangelization and like working with like theology, being able to talk about your faith and open to, with other people too as well.
Jane, just because you have that really sweet accent, I think Alan and I will tell you what the book is about. So, Alan, what do you think? Shall we just keep that southern drawl going a little bit?
It's totally making it. Oh, I thought you'd tell her. We're waiting, Joe. We're waiting. We're like, everyone's listening. So
Jane's turning red.
Okay, no, this is fine.
One thing to say. So we interviewed Mary Ellen, and she's from Long Island, New York. And she was like, "Oh my!" When I talked to her for the first time, she said, "Oh my gosh, you're so Southern."
Oh, the lady last week. Yeah, she was a good show.
Anyway, okay, go ahead.
Took her by surprise. No, but seriously, you know what else it raises besides leaders is just what Darryl said. You stand up for God no matter if no one else is standing up with you. You say, by the way, this is off the mark. How many teens can do that? Because teens want to fit in, blend, and be like one of the gang. They want to be popular more than God's man or God's woman. So I think that is what a leader is. Someone that stands up just like Joshua the prophet, no matter if anybody's behind them. Like, hey, there's giants in the land, but we can take them, and they stand for God alone. So, Alan, pop in with one of the questions. We wrote pre-show notes. We never look at them.
Okay. Well, we were talking about what COPEC stood for, and so we have COPEC. Now, some of your listeners may remember that you talked to us about our previous book, which was Teaching Teens to Fail. Now, the reason that we rewrote, that's a hard 3 words to say together. The reason we rewrote this book and targeted it for parents is because all of the teaching that's done with our faith is done at home, or the unteaching of our faith is done at home. And so we really need parents to get on board and understand that they are the first catechist for their children. They are the first teachers of the faith. What we do in an hour or 2 hours at youth group and an hour at church can be undone over the week at home quickly, because they have a relationship with their parents. So we thought, let's target this book instead of toward youth ministers and toward youth professionals. Let's target this book toward parents. And so it was Sophia Press, when we originally talked about this, they said, we love your book. We think it would be more effective if you were able to write this to parents. And in one day, I rewrote the book and targeted it toward parents, and we had all these different stories come together. And after honing it for a little while, now we're releasing Failing Forward. And it really, I love the way that this book came out, because we've got COPEC. COPEC is the C for COPEC. The first C stands for challenge. Then we have observe, process, evaluate, and challenge again. And all of these steps are important. You can't take any one step out of it. It has to be challenge, observe, process, evaluate, challenge again. Has to be in that order. And we call it a method, not a system, because a method is something that you have to use over and over and become methodical at, right? So that's something that's very important for parents that are attempting our method of training their teens to be leaders, have to understand that it's not a one-time thing. Like you don't try it one time and expect miracles to happen. This is not a magic spell. This is our faith that we have to practice at. We have to use our faith all the time. We have to train our kids all the time, you know. I mean, how many times have we said things more than one time to our children, right? I mean, every parent out there has said things multiple times. The problem is that we're saying things, we're not listening as often as we need to. So the way that this method is set up, it does train children to be leaders, but it's extremely challenging for parents to use our method, because a lot of times we let pride get in the way. Like I'm perfect. And I was telling Darryl earlier, we were talking to somebody and we were saying there are two types of parents that'll read our book. One who will say, I don't need any help at all. I'm perfect, but I'm going to read this because my kid's out of control, right? And there are others that'll say, I really need some help and my kid's out of control. Or I really need some help. I'm worried my kid's going to be out of control. Or some mixture of those two. But you either have the pride getting in the way or the parents saying, it's my kid's fault. So we have to the first thing we have to do is speak that truth with love from parent to parent and say, if your kids are out of control, let's re-examine, you know, what brought them to this point. It may not be your fault. Sometimes parents do everything 100% right and their kids take a turn, and there's nothing that you can do about that. However, let's do everything we can before it gets to that point. And I think that I know that our COPEC method is successful for parents that struggle with teens, that struggle with, you know, letting go, that struggle with letting their kids have their own faith instead of having it shoved down their throat. Darryl says you can't feed everybody with a water hose or a fire hose. You know, you can't feed our faith with a fire hose. And I love that because we can't. But what we can do is let them fail at things and move on and go forward. If you'd like, Darryl can tell you a story, like walk you through like a COPEC challenge, the way that you would challenge your teen. And maybe we could even ask you guys, you know, to take on a challenge before we're done.
Well, what do you think, Jane Ann? Okay, Darryl, you're on.
You can do this with your husbands too. It makes it's more fun that way too. But I forgot what Alan was going to. Alan, you just said something.
You're giving a story about a COPEC.
Darryl, here's what I need you to do, man. I need you to start listening. Because this is the second time that you've asked. What was the question? Are you have the speakers on your computer?
Interview today.
They're doing a role play of what parents do. They hear, but they don't do it. That's okay. That's a good dramatization. That's really
no. We're talking about you giving an example of the COPEC.
I'm trying to make it relevant for moms. We just got off an interview with a bunch for dads, and now I'm on mom zone. But I'm like relevant story.
You're talking about Maddox earlier doing the with the can opener, and it can be a simple one. It doesn't have to be a massive challenge.
So when we talk about failing forward, and I think something I want to clarify is, you know, we don't set our kids up to fail, but our long-term goal is allow them the small failures so that they become smart enough to recognize and make decisions that will stop them from life-altering failures, if you will. And so that's.
Oh wait, Darryl. Talk about the one at the church before you get into Maddox's story. Talk about the one at the church that we did with the youth group with the blankets.
Oh, okay.
That's a great story. This is a great example of COPEC and how a parent wanted to step in and kind of save things before it went wrong or control it. So if you can fit yourself into the story as the parent, caution. Like, pay attention.
I'll give you that one. So we tasked our youth group kids in per grade to come up with a service project for I guess Christmas or something. And one our seniors got together and they wanted to create these little blankets and baggies with socks and things and go down to the certain section of Orlando and hand them out to our homeless, you know, population down there. And so I had at the time, one of the ladies was like, one of our core members wanted to help out, and she hasn't really bought into our COPEC method yet. and now she's not a part of our ministry. No, it's not because of that. So anyway, long story short, so she was really taking a more active role than what she needed to, and really infringing upon the kids and what they should be doing. And so at some point, she actually did step out of ministry, and so the senior, well, most of them were girls, in this particular case, and they were getting the guys involved, typical church, you know. And so they were putting things together, and they would call me like, hey, you know, Coach D, you know, we need space to pack these bags. I'm like, okay. I said, I can reserve a room in the church for you. When do you want to do it? I don't know. When can we? I said, I don't know. You're in charge. And they would keep asking me, hey, can we do this? I go, I don't know. You're in charge. And over time, they realized they were in charge. So we finally got to a point where, you know, we opened up this office, had them, they stacked everything, made everything, and they were like, okay, let's go down to, you know, drop this off. And they go, but so-and-so's mom wasn't comfortable with that. So what should we do? I said, I don't know. You're in charge. You said you wanted to, can we take them to a homeless shelter? I said, I don't know. You're in charge. What do you want to do? Well, I think I'd like to do that. Okay, then let's go there. Do they know we're coming? No. Can I call them? I don't know. You're in charge. What do you want to do? You know, and I just keep asking those questions. And so at the end of the day, they decided that they're going to go to a distribution center that actually has the setup and the structure to be able to service people. And they dropped all the bags off. And then they said, is that okay if we don't go down to this public place where they're homeless? And can we just leave them here? I said, this is your project. What do you want to do? They're like, I would feel more comfortable if we left it here. I said, I support you, whatever you want to do. And so we dropped it off. Well, needless to say, the shelter was like, this is amazing. We need blankets. We need socks. We had toothpaste in there or whatever, you know. People will be so happy. And then, you know, we got coffee afterwards with these about 4 girls. And we just kind of, you know, to kind of unpack their experience. And what makes me laugh. They're like, thank you so much for all you did for us. I'm like, I did nothing. I got the room because you needed it. I was just there. You did everything. And they walked away with a sense of more ownership than they could ever have had if I would have done this for them. You know, they saw it through from start to finish. And that's really what COPEC is, you know, did they fail because they didn't go down to the certain section of Orlando and encounter, you know, John Doe homeless and say, hi, well, I guess, yeah, but did they fail? Yeah, but not really, because they learned something, and they also decided that that wasn't safe for them. They didn't feel safe, and I'm like, okay, so you did what felt right for you, you know, and they ended up helping people. So I think that's really a point. And I had to tell this particular adult, step back, let them do it. This is not your project. This is their project, you know. And I had another mom come in, you know, we had kind of 2 projects concurrently going, and this other mom stepped in, and she was upset with Alan because, well, you didn't tell my daughter. And Alan's like, your daughter's responsible for scheduling things. She failed. She didn't. And it was like the mom's melting down, and she comes to me, you need to tell Alan. And I said to her, I go, no, you need to tell Alan. I'm not your babysitter. If you have a problem with Alan, you talk to him. And consequently, you know, they ended up talking about it. You know, she put Alan in his place, which was very good. And, you know, he learned a lesson of humility. And it was good growth for Alan. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong story, Alan. At the end of the day, the mom had to step back and be like, listen, is this your project? Yeah, but you need to help them. We are helping them. They're safe.
Help them grow up.
There's nothing, nobody's going to hurt them. He screwed up. The girl did not call the meeting. She didn't schedule it. And there's a failure to communicate. So, you know, a year later.
Parents step in. I'm sorry, dear. I thought you were done.
No, man. Now I'm going. It's like you're
buying. Imagine what else you could possibly. This is just.
Whoever's on the picture gets to speak.
I've had a birthday since you started talking. So can we?
My beard just grew another inch.
I just played, man. You're doing a good job.
Thanks, man.
No, I think that's enough.
Okay. Wait, Jan, you have a question for these 2 men?
I just think it's great, and I'm just sitting here thinking to myself because I'm like, I don't have to role play like that because I have to do that every day.
Yep.
I mean, but I have learned though through having so many children, especially because we had one daughter and then we had 5 boys back to back. So that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of testosterone. I mean, they were like, we're talking 17. The farthest any 2 boys were 17 months apart. So I mean, that's a lot of testosterone. So
Jane, are your younger kids more independent than your older kids? Would you say at the same age? So
yeah, by far.
Yeah.
But our oldest daughter was just because we had her first, and then we had the 5 boys, and she helped. She was like my right arm. But the 5 boys, I mean, they are all hands on. But we just learned. But when we had kids in the beginning, like we just didn't know anything. But now what I've learned is what y'all are exactly talking about, and it's so true. The Kopek method, it is so true. Just is because when they make mistakes at home, which I think is the best place for them to make mistakes, don't crucify them for it, but talk it through and show God's mercy and grace, and then so they can learn from that. We've just experienced that on several levels, but on our oldest daughter, we didn't do that as much. Maybe never even hardly at all. I mean, I have to say I learned a lot from just her, and then our son, which was our second child. But that what y'all are saying is hands down, it is definitely the way to go.
It's kind of proof, if we look at your kids alone, like your oldest daughter, when you had boys right after her, it's like she had to become independent because you couldn't stand there and tell her every three seconds to do something different. And we see that a lot with parents with a lot of kids, is that they have some kids that are super independent and smart and cognitive thinking, and they use their abilities more. And that's what we want for our kids, is we don't want to oppress our kids. As parents, you should never oppress your children, and we can't make them little carbon copies of us. They have their own personalities, they have their own gifts from God, and they need to blossom, and they need time to let those blossom.
Yes.
So with in our Failing Forward book, when we talk about our Kopek method, this allows those gifts that God instills in our children from the birth, that he blesses them with and anoints them with, to come out. Because you can't learn from your mistakes if you aren't allowed to make any mistakes.
Right, absolutely, and it's the truth. Because I mean, my goodness, we've gone through a lot with my boys. I'm just gonna say, I mean, I maybe need to write my own book.
But you know, Jane,
survival of the fittest.
But it's so true, even with just children, because I mean, and just keep that encouragement going. Your words of affirmation, hey, we'll get through this, and just talking it through, prayer. And it's a great time to really exercise your faith in that moment.
A lot of parents think it's harsh though when we speak the truth. Like when I told that mom, well, no, your daughter failed. She was supposed to call a meeting and she didn't call a meeting. She was offended because she felt like she was a failure, not her daughter. She felt like she failed, and that's what we had to come to that understanding. Is like, look. She's like, and I asked her, I said, what are you concerned about? What is your concern? Well, I don't want to look bad. People here know me at church, and I don't want them to think that I did something wrong. And I said, well, you're not involved with this. It's your daughter. She goes, well, you can't separate the two. It's what I do is what my daughter does. And I said, no, ma'am. You have to let her fail. She has to learn. And if you want her to be, and she is a very strong leader. This girl is a very strong leader. But she's also one of those high achievers who is afraid to attempt things on her own without, asking her mom to check her work. And so that's one of the things that, we're working with her on. But it's parents like that, who will step in and save them right when a failure is about to happen. That's the best time. That's the best time. You failed. Okay, so your kid's making dinner. They put, instead of putting, flour, they put powdered sugar. Okay, well, it's going to come out completely different. Yeah. My mom has done this with banana bread, so I know this. It actually came out really cool. But no, it came out completely different. So, you have to let them fail. What's the worst that's going to happen? You toss it and you start again.
That's right.
But I think, thank you, Alan, for that surface stuff. Let's go deep now. I think though, Jane, you said something important about sharing God's mercy and things like that, and that's really what Kopek the Kopek method in Failing Forward has written into it. Is the O, P, and the E of the Kopek really is the opportunity to minister and walk with our kids. And I think your example is a really good example in terms of your oldest one we didn't do it as much as you said. And I think because we don't realize what ministry should look like,
Right.
We don't realize that accompaniment that you now maybe did for your younger children because of wisdom, and it took a while to figure it out, what works and what doesn't work. This is what we in ministry do. The observe, the process, the evaluate is the nitty gritty, getting in there, accompanying them in their worst moments where they don't feel good about themselves. Maybe there's shame, there's guilt, there's whatever it is. They're angry at us, but it's really because they're angry at themselves. And the O, P, and the E is where we enter into that moment. And either we can be a moment of God's grace and mercy, or we can be a moment of, negativity and turn them away from God. So I really liked how you said that. And in the book, that's where, it's the O, the P, and the E are in there. And that's kind of what it is. Alan, want to take it deeper?
No, you did a good job.
Thanks, bro.
You did a good job. That was
We're
awesome.
helping each other. Okay, so it says, what about the solutions, y'all? When they make a mistake and they fail, forward or backward, that the solutions, I'm really big on solutions. One of my pet peeves is when people keep making the same mistake, no matter if they're 2 or 402, and they don't find a solution. They just keep on making the same mistake and going, I'm sorry. That's what parents fail on, not helping them walk through to a solution. I'm sure you train the parents in that area as well. Solutions are big with me. Anybody?
Well, it's important for the kids to come up with their own solutions. If we step in as parents and say, "Look, here's what you did wrong. Here's how not to do it again," all right, well, now we've solved the problem. Now they have not, and there is a scientific side to this. So in the prefrontal cortex in our mind, in our brains, that's forming until the time boys are about 21 or 22 and girls are 19 or 20. And so if we're not allowed to use that creative thinking process, if we're not allowed, to get out and actually get our hands in stuff and make mistakes and learn from it and figure out, okay, I tried to build a block tower. I have to obviously make the base bigger than the top so it stands up. If we don't learn that from a young age on our own, then we're always looking to somebody else to answer our questions. And we see it today. We see it with our young adults today trying to find work. They can't get jobs because they don't know how to communicate with people. They don't know how to work hard and overcome things and work late and do what it takes to make it happen. And I'm not saying all of them. There are some fantastic young adults out there, but we see a lot of them saying, well, I had to quit that job because they didn't want to give me a raise after 3 weeks. And it's like, hold on a minute, are you kidding me? Like, you were there for 3 weeks. You haven't been there for 3 years. You haven't been there for 3 months. You're complaining because what you agreed to work for has not changed, and now you think it should because you think you're worth more than they told you that you are. So it's like this sense of entitlement always will come to you unless you know that you have to get your hands dirty and work yourself out of that ditch that you just brought yourself into.
That's right.
It's true.
I mean, that's our faith, Alan. I mean, Alan's putting it right there, but that, we translate that to our faith is, we're not entitled to heaven, and then we can't earn it either, right? It's God's grace freely given to us. But what I love what Alan is saying is that we got to do our part.
Right.
We have got to do our part, and that's where the ownership and the Kopek and falling forward or failing forward. The other guy called it falling forward the whole interview. And failing forward is pick up your bootstraps and you've got to do your part. And I love Alan said this in the other video. He said Jesus sent the 72 out. And they had to go do work.
Yeah.
And they did the work, and they came back and they said, God, this is what we did. This is what happened, and the demons were coming out and all this, and he's like, okay, you got your hands dirty. This is good. And they weren't entitled to that. They had to work for it. And so I think that's a huge human lesson in human formation. So thank you, Alan, for sharing your wisdom with us.
One of us has to, so you're welcome.
I think that parents, though, do think they're doing the kid a favor by stepping in, but I like your idea of letting them make the solution, I was the same way. Another thing I believed in, I'm sure y'all could take this to heart because you're the ones that are experts. But I would send my kids on an adventure when they turned 17. See, when I left home at 17, I lived in different states. I tried different colleges. I was a piano stewardess. I felt like that was the best thing I ever did. I got married at 20. I didn't know I'd get married at 20. So having an adventure, not just going, some kids aren't called to go from high school to college. And that, just anytime they're on their own, walk on the water by themselves and go like, look, I can do it. Then they feel great about themselves on the inside. They get life lessons that you can't read in a book or learn at school. So what do y'all think about that?
Well, it's hard for parents, though, right? And this is where we've got to put our pride aside and put the best effort forth for our kids from their point of view. Because nobody wants. I mean, I struggle with my daughter going to college, away from home. I'm being honest. It was hard for me because I love her and I want to be around her. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I'll sniffle in private, but I want her to know that I'm supporting her, and I don't want her to feel that she's guilty and has to stay around at home for me. She's got a life to live. She wants to be a doctor. She wants to be a surgeon. So I can't teach her that. So I got to know that it's time for her to go explore. And I would not be comfortable doing that if I didn't know that she was a fantastic leader and a strong individual with, some good interpersonal skills. I think she's awesome, but that's because she's my daughter. And
letting go lets them fly. What do you think, Jane, about that? Because you have 11 to let go of. Well, one's already gone.
Absolutely. You really get to the point where I think the word that comes to mind is, I just can't micromanage. I mean, that's just impossible. And also, I want to touch base on letting them go. Our daughter did move out when she was like 18 and completely lived on her own, paid her bills and because she did have a lot more responsibility being the oldest of 11. So, but children, we have to let them go, and then I think just encourage them. Hey, you got this. This is it's learning for them. I think it's the best thing we can do, actually.
And I have a question for y'all. What you want to share a little bit about what you're doing now, and then how they can get a hold of you, because we're going to have to end this show in a little bit, but someday. But would you like to share about what you're doing now, how they get a hold of the book, and I know Alan's been doing podcasts. So how's that going, Alan?
They're going well. I don't know where to put them. I'm still learning the whole podcast thing. So I'm using Facebook, and I have a YouTube channel for Adventure Catholic. But adventurecatholic.com is the best place to get our book and to learn a little bit more about us. And Darryl and I have been doing a lot of, we were before the pandemic and everything, which I'd like to talk about for a second, but let me get to that. We've been doing a lot of retreats, parent-teen retreats, confirmation retreats, and we've been doing some public speaking. And Ellen, we came over to your parish and did a men's ministry leadership talk, and that was a lot of fun because we got to, instead of talking to just the kid, we got to talk to the parents, and it was all the men of the parish. So we were able to say, look, when you shepherd a family, you don't oppress the rest of them so that you exalt yourself. We were able to get that message across, and that was awesome. But this pandemic that we have right now, it's given us an opportunity to really see what we're made of, and to see. My kids are like, what do you think? How do you feel about this pandemic, Dad? And I'm like, well, how do you feel about it? I'm not going to push my thoughts on you. I want to know what are your thoughts without swaying them one way or the other. What are your thoughts? And it's interesting because, they say, well, I think we should be smart. I think we should do what we can to stay safe, but I don't want to be afraid to live. And I said, well, that's awesome. I think that's a great idea. So we go to.
I'm doing a podcast. Shut the door.
Hey, come on in. No, come on in. Get in here.
Go on now. Sorry.
That's a failure, Jane.
That was the fifth son.
I called it.
Hey.
I don't know if
He's got off a job.
So
that's good, Dale.
So Dale, what do you think?
Awesome.
I got a knack for. Yeah.
Dale, what do you think about the pandemic? I can't pronounce the word. But go on. What do you think about it? What did it teach you?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, it taught me to just be one with who I know. Gosh darn, Ellen, you had to ask me.
Wait.
I just kind of went into survival. I'll be honest, I kind of went into survival mode. working for the church, there was like a lot of, and I hate this word because it's overused.
Okay.
There was a lot of pivoting going on, and it felt like, honest to God, every day we're having a Zoom meeting and something was shifting and changing and stuff. So for me, it was just like, Lord, enough is enough. Can we just get through it? I'm kind of emotionally just spent. So I haven't really done any much deep reflection on it.
Okay. No, but you made it through. You made it through, and that's how.
Yeah.
Introverts did better. Introverts did better than extroverts. I know that for a fact.
I think what it did was put me in touch with families in terms of, if I'm experiencing this, then families must be experiencing this, and just to kind of slow down a little bit and find solidarity in that was, I guess, my moment of clarity.
Jen, how'd you survive it? Jane, how'd you do?
Me?
You homeschool,
Yeah.
so it wasn't much.
Alan, no, I'm. That's what I think. Just to take time, and you really become more of a family. And I was doing a lot of running around. Taking children here and here, and it was just a time. Really, I kind of enjoyed actually not having to drive anywhere.
Yes. Just like.
Yeah. It was good. I really liked it.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so y'all, do you have any last minute questions before we go last words? Jane, do you have a last question for the men?
Yeah, okay, so we needed to get, I also wanted to say, are you on Instagram, or what are all your social media platforms that y'all are using?
Facebook is and our webpage has been the two most, I guess, effective, because Instagram seems to be a little bit more aimed toward the younger generation.
Okay, so you're reaching the parents.
We're trying to reach out to parents. Yeah, that's been our best resource right now. Instagram is just not something we've done. We could, but it's Facebook, and we're at Adventure Catholic on Facebook, and adventurecatholic.com is our website.
They do.
You can find Alan individually, us individually on Facebook as well.
Okay.
We do. Are you on YouTube? I know I do. I do.
Yeah, we have an Adventure
YouTube.
Catholic YouTube.
Okay.
I do a little thing on. Well, I guess if you go to my personal page, I do like a little motivational thing called Kicking the Faith. So, and that's on YouTube.
It's for teens, I hope. What's your response to parents so far? Since you're working with the adults now. I mean, parents are big children anyway. So what's your experience with parents?
Well, we're not just talking to the parent; we're talking to their parents, because that's where they get all of their, their skills from, and all of their, their quirks and all their bad and good comes from their parents. And so that's where we're trying to break that cycle and raise some leaders. We've had a good response, though. I think we've had a really good response. Even in some of the talks that we've done, like we did a couple of confirmation talks where we've gotten into, some hot topics, homosexuality and man marrying a woman, and we've been able to navigate that really well, I think. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to agree with our stance on it, because our stance is the church's stance, and so they're not really disagreeing with me. So we really don't get, for lack of a better term, butthurt over stuff. It's kind of like, you're disagreeing with God. We're just bringing you a message. So, that's on you and God. So, like, the things that we say, we've been able to speak the truth with love, really haven't had a whole lot of parents, other than at first, there's some parents that get upset with, when they see us. Darryl's laughing because most of the parents get upset with me. Darryl's just a much more friendly-looking kind of guy, I guess.
Not with the COVID beard, though. This is the COVID beard. I don't know this. There's this
like Raccoon Ranger
guy.
That's funny. Okay, so guys, we're gonna have to go with last words, because last words sometimes takes 15 minutes. We gotta get off the air in 15 minutes, not because of any other reason, but everybody's probably hungry. So, who wants to go first on last words, guys? Last words? You're going first, Daryl. You're going first. What's your last word? How would you sum the show? If parents listen on YouTube, how would you sum the show? Catch this one word or two. By the book.
Daryl.
Alan. All right. All I'm going to say is this: go to adventurecatholic.com, get your book, Failing Forward. And the cool thing about Failing Forward is you don't just get the book, but you also get us. We are available to help talk through things, chat with you. We want you to be successful. And at the end of the day, this is something that just worked for us. And if you're at wit's end and you want to try something new, check it out. We'll be happy to talk you through it and bounce some ideas and help in any way we can. So, Family Forward, Adventure Catholic, please. Love to see you.
Thank you so much, Alan. Your last words, and we'll go. Jane Ann.
Well, I would say, I'd like to encourage parents to listen to my words right now. I think that the steps of a godly man are numbered, which means that we're predestined for greatness if we follow God's path. Amen. So I encourage you, if you're hearing us talk about this right now, and I know we joke around a lot, we get off track, we have fun, but God is our focus. God is our focus, and getting others to God is our focus. If you're hearing us talk about God, God wants you to hear this message. If a friend sent you this link to our video, God wants you to hear this message. So my prayer is that you take that blessing and take advantage of this opportunity in front of you to get to know God better. And sometimes getting to know yourself, not who you think that you've become, but who you really are and who God created you to be, takes reading a book like Failing Forward and really coming to terms with some of the uncomfortable things in your life that you may not want to confront. And that's pride, being prideful as a parent, and those sorts of things. So I encourage you, pick up a copy of Failing Forward. It's not an expensive book. It's like $15. I think Sophia Press has a special. You can get both of my books, The Manly Art of Raising a Daughter and Failing Forward, for like $18. They have a special running. You can go to my website, adventurecatholic.com, and me and Darryl, you can see us there, and you can pick up a book there and see some of our videos and our interviews. And we'll put this interview on the front page after you edit it and cut Darryl out and really kind of make it worthwhile.
He sometimes does it just the way it is. That's okay. What you see is what you get. Jane Ann, last words, and I'm going to do the last words. We're going to tell how to reach each one of us.
Okay, I just love this because I really think that this also helps out with communication, like you both were saying. It helps with communication with the parent and the child, but then them getting to know each other, but also the child coming to a place where they get to know the parent and the parent gets to know them, which is all about communication. Because, and like you were saying, losing pride, I remember just even with our oldest daughter or our oldest son. I mean, I remember a priest telling us one time, we were like, oh my gosh, they're doing this, X, Y, and Z. And he immediately told us, he was like, that's, and I was not able to control the situation or micromanage it. And he was like, you're in pride. If you think you're in control, you're not in control. And so that was really eye-opening for my husband and I. But yeah, I love this. I'm definitely going to get the book. I have not read this book, but I love the Kopek method that y'all are working on. And you can reach me at dimeadozenmom.com.
Thank you, Jane Ann. And here I'll just show you all. This is the old book, but it's got a new cover and a new title, and you have to read it. Deacon Pat and I spent time reading this book together, and my mom happened to be there, and we all learned together, and we really grew. And it's not just for children to be leaders. Some parents have to grow into the high heels and the boots and become leaders in this world. We sure need it. If y'all look around, read the newspaper, watch the TV, listen to the radio, guess what? We need leaders. We need those who will stand strong, who will follow the Lord, those who will not be afraid, and those who will not be afraid, first of all, to fail and fail forward. Is it fail forward? So there, we don't want to get it wrong. But we thank you all for coming on, and I appreciate it. Do you want to last thing say where you can reach last, so we make sure they hear that last? And here we go. Now it's time to do Alan.
You want me to say where they can reach us?
Just reach us. So just one more time. That is end with that. So
AdventureCatholic.com. AdventureCatholic.com is the place to find more information, get the book, and get a hold of us.
And we thank you guys. That's Darryl, and this is Alan. I knew it right. And this is Jane Ann. So y'all, thank you so much for joining me today on Well Mom, and I appreciate you coming on. And we'll show you the new book when I get my copy. Jane Ann will put it on air, and when I get my copy, Jane Ann will put it on next time that we had these guys on the show. So thank you so much for joining us today. Tell a friend, watch it twice, watch it again. And we sure appreciate people that stand strong and teach our youth. This is our future. So the parents, do the job right. Or if you don't, the world would be glad to take that turn and do it wrongly. We're dependent on you, because our kids and we are hanging with y'all on this world. We want it to be a world, one nation under God. Thank you. Here we go, and thank you for joining us.